I grew up in a single-parent home. My mother raised me, but my father was around. My mom did everything she could to make it seem as if it wasn't a big deal, like something wasn't amiss. So she did a really good job, I think.
Both my parents thought it'd be a really good experience for me and my brothers to kind of be brought up with, our Native American background. So we moved out to Ganado, Arizona, and lived there for 4 years. We lived part of the time with my dad's mother, who is a full-blooded Native American, as is my dad.
I was born in Toledo, Ohio, but I moved to Miami and for a little while, and shortly after that I moved to Ida, Michigan, where I lived throughout my career. Living in Ida is a very peaceful time. Everybody knows you, and you enjoy being around people. And so we have like gatherings, like a festival. It's very peaceful and relaxing.
Growing up, I learned from my mom to be very independent, that when I graduate, I want to have a job that I can take care of myself and in the future, my family. I also learned that I have to do what I want to do. No one else is going to live this life. I only have one life, and I should choose to spend it any way I want to. In elementary school, they give you those random hearing tests, and they just pick students, and you go and you take a test. So I was randomly picked, and I went to the office with the lady, and she did the hearing test, and I failed it completely. Didn't even raise my hand, not once. And they informed my parents, and they got another test done, and they told my mom and my dad, your child is legally deaf. And my mom felt really like as if she neglected me. She was wondering how could her child be legally deaf and she not notice it.
In kindergarten you're always playing, little games on the floor or something. And the teacher would call me sometimes, from behind, say, Aaron, Aaron, Aaron. And then I'd look and they're like, oh, what? Not realizing that she had, said my name 2 or 3 times already. So she brought this up with my mom and was like, you might want to have his hearing checked out. And we did, and found out that I was indeed hearing impaired.
At first, when I was born, and as I grew, before 6 months old, they noticed that I was not speaking. And when my mom would talk to me, I did not look at her. And they finally decided to take me to a doctor, and they ran tests on me, and they discovered that I was profoundly deaf.
I was able to communicate with others, pretty much as well as any other kid can communicate with others by reading lips. I wasn't, emotionally crushed. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, my life was ruined. I was just a little happy kid still.
I felt like I was the only one who had this problem. I just learned to be quiet because I would have to, and I guess I just become a more observant person. I think the way I dealt with it was my twin sister. She was the only one who acted like nothing was wrong, and really nothing was wrong.
Once I was in middle school, people were like, oh, Aaron Candido, he's hearing impaired. So, I began to associate that with myself. And it was something that I really did not like.
People from other schools did not know who I was, so I was always afraid that they would not like me because I was hearing impaired. So I sort of kept there on the side road until I started having problems communicating with them. Then I have to make sure that they know. And sometimes they tend to shy away because they don't know how to handle it. But other than that, there were some nice people that were willing to help me.
The first feeling once you've moved into your dorms and your parents finally drive away is, whoa, I'm on my own. I can do anything that I want, which is something that's hard to prepare for.
I expected college to be just get out there and wow, meet the world, meet new people, become a totally new, different person.
I always expected to be having to work all the time, but instead of working so much, I met so many people, and I became involved in many organizations.
Anything that I do or that I want to do, I can do. I don't see hard of hearing as being an aspect that needs to be focused on or that really just determines an experience at a place such as a college.
Some people, when they find out that I'm hearing, they tend to treat me differently. Like you can tell, when they find out, they tend to use different words and they treat you as if you're not as smart as they are.
Yeah, my hearing impairment doesn't really, affect people's perceptions of my intelligence, mainly because people do speak with formulas. Oh, hello, how are you doing? I'm fine. They expect that the next step of conversation is going to be that. I guess the only times when, my intelligence comes into play is when I've, read too far, and gotten the wrong guess. I've guessed that they're going to say something which they haven't said.
It's really hard to convey the message to people that hard of hearing has nothing to do with my brain. My ears have nothing to do with my brain. They don't see how I can live everyday life without any type of help from someone else.
I want you to imagine for a second wanting to read a book, and on every page there are 4 or 5 words missing. And you can fill in the blanks by saying what, come again, pardon me, huh? But, and I know that's a very small thing to do, but it gets embarrassing if you have to say it for the 3rd time. And yes, it gets frustrating.
When people say the word never mind, I get really, really aggravated. I mean, I shouldn't get upset, but I do.
Basically, when people say never mind, it really ticks me off, and it bothers me so much because it tells me that they don't care enough to repeat things for me. They don't care enough to let me know what's going on.
It's just frustrating. I mean, here I am, I'm trying as hard as I can, pretty much 24/7, to hear what it is you're saying. Because I care, or, because I don't know what you're saying and it could be important.
To me, when I asked you what did you say, and you say never mind, I feel as if you're choosing for me what I get to hear or not. And so even if it's as smart as, oops, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom, and it's really not important to me or of any relevance to what we're talking about, if I ask you what did you say, just say it. When I'm communicating or talking with my friends and they obstruct the view of their lips, it does become a problem at times. For example, they could be telling a story and they would get up and they would turn around and they would continue talking and I wouldn't hear them. I have to sometimes constantly remind them, hey, turn around, you have to face me. Give me a signal to see if I still understand what you're saying. Don't cover your mouth. And actually, don't move your hands too much because a lot of times I'm looking at you trying to read your lips and your hands could be distracting. And so I might try to follow your hands and miss what you're saying because I'm not reading your lips.
Despite the fact that, most people can listen while they're doing this, it's just a good habit in general, and especially with hearing impaired people, to just, bring your center of attention right there.
discussion Jackson ended up problematic for me in a way that due to the orange conversation, so and my provider had a problem cutting everything and writing it down and it's not okay. So I'm pretty much lost almost all the time with the discussion section. And so I have to ask them repeat things so that my stenographer can get it and I can, be involved in the discussion. Kind of interject them in with the stenographer, take notes verbatim, and the things will come out on the screen for people to read them. And this system in schools, they take notes in class, and as they finish taking their notes, they fix the mistakes and then send those notes to students through email so that the students can have the notes and then read them over in case they missed something. And these are the very useful programs for students because they can take notes in class. And I know for a fact that students with hearing impairment, they tend to miss things in class, so they really need the notes to be able to get all the materials they need to pass the class.
It's difficult to find a seating arrangement, for all the students in the classroom, especially in a lab, that would allow me to see everybody's, faces. I've had professors who like to walk around, and I can see how this might have various benefits for fully hearing students. The problem with moving around is for various parts of your movement, your mouth becomes invisible to me. I can't see it.
We need to be in the circle. We need to face me. I need to hear what it is you're saying. They can't really be in the background if they're in charge as far as discussion or something. They have to be at a central main point. That way I can know that after any question, go back to professors. Professors that like to walk around, it's kind of hard for me to follow them and pick up on what it is they're saying.
If you have a hearing impaired student in your class, please try and just make your mouth visible for the whole lecture.
I have missed assignments when the professors have not spoken face-to-face or facing me.
Writing assignments, on the board or just having them on an overhead projector makes things much easier for hearing impaired students. This would also eliminate problems for hearing students. In any lecture setting, there's going to be a kid, raising his or her hand and asking a question. The majority of the time, I am not going to hear this question.
I constantly have problems hearing the questions that the students ask during lectures because in big rooms, students are always way in the back asking questions and I cannot hear them at all. And neither can my provider. So the professor sometimes remember to repeat things because they know that the other students cannot hear them too.
If you are a lecturer, if you are any sort of instructor and a student has asked you a question, repeat the question and then answer it. This makes it a lot easier for everybody, I would think.
When a teacher is teaching through classroom noises, I don't try. There's no point in me trying to figure out, listen to the teacher, and this girl is talking about last night, and that guy over there is talking about the football game, and those people over there are arguing. There's just no point in me trying, really.
Man, oh man, I'll get frustrated if I'm doing my darndest to hear, what you're saying, but I can't because of factors outside my control. Please use your authority to quiet people down, or you're not lecturing to me. And if you take your class outside, which I love it when you do, just make sure you know who your hearing impaired student is and that you are facing them when you speak, and that, it's obvious that they're hearing you.
The teacher has to be strict and have a classroom quiet. Usually, first few weeks, they're right on top of it. But I believe because they get comfortable, they don't get any complaints from the hard of hearing students, they tend to slack on what it is they knew that they had to do. And so at times the professor would forget that they have to turn and face the classroom, or that they would have to write, something down. So yes, professors do tend to forget what they're supposed to do.
I believe it is okay for students to remind their professors that they do need help, because the students have to stand up for themselves in order to succeed, and they have to be able to understand the material.
Benefits about being hard of hearing are of many. One of my favorites is lip reading. So you don't have to particularly be talking to me for me to understand your conversation. And I tend to become the interpreter between two hearing people, ironically.
I hear things when I'm sleeping. For example, my dad knows a lot at home, and I don't have to hear him when I'm sleeping, while everybody else in the house suffers from that. I don't have to hear someone yelling at me sometimes, so I don't have my hearing aids on.
It makes me more of a unique individual, which I think is a good feeling. It makes you stand out from your peers.
This presentation was brought to you by the Adam Miller Fund. Adam Stephen Miller was the consummate Michigan man, excelling in academics and thoroughly participating in all of the university's experiences. Despite many physical challenges, including severe hearing loss, he achieved excellence at the University of Michigan, receiving a BA with honors and highest distinction in 1994 and an MA in journalism in 1996. While at the university, he received invaluable assistance from Joan E. Smith and the Services for Students with Disabilities Office. The pizza parties, closed caption movie nights, and the opportunities to spend time with other students with disabilities were cherished parts of his time in Ann Arbor. The Adam Miller Fund was established to both honor his memory and provide hard-of-hearing students in perpetuity with the type of experience Adam had at the university. It now assists students with visual and mobility disabilities as well. The personal assistance devices, personal training, extracurricular activities, and learning experiences for the students with disabilities enrich their university years and allow them to fully participate in the university's community. Through the generous support of friends and family, the Adam Miller Fund continues to grow and greatly impacts students at the University of Michigan.